we are officially just over 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, which means it's time to get into some rankings for this year's draft. So let's get right into it. Diving into the interior offensive line, I'm going to go through my top 10 interior offensive linemen for this year's draft with a focus on the players that we fully anticipate are going to be interior offensive linemen. Now, there's a ton of flexibility here, and that can add value. There's also a ton of tackles at the top of this draft that could end up playing guard at the next level. I could go from Josh Connerly to Kelvin Banks Jr., who some people may view as a guard at the next level, Armand Mbow towards the top of the draft. There's a ton of guys that could play guard, depending on what the offensive line needs, depending on what just worked for them at the next level. But today, I really want to focus on the guys that we fully anticipate are going to be interior offensive linemen. Now, this could mean center or guard. It doesn't necessarily have to mean you're playing guard, be either position. And today, I'm going to go through my top 10. Now, some of these rankings may change because some of them I have so tightly graded. And also, as we get close to the draft, watching more of these players, getting more notes on these guys, things may just tweak a little bit. But for now, this kind of gives me the baseline of where I'm at with a lot of these interior offensive linemen. So I'll give you my top 10 and name some guys that are just on the outside. I got, 5 to 10 plus. That being said, I want to waste no more time. Let's get right into it. We got a lot of players to discuss, and let's start off at number 10. We're going to go from 10 to number 1, and at number 10, we're going to start with an offensive lineman that's got kind of an awkward build in this year's draft for an interior offensive lineman at 6'5", just under 300 pounds at 299 out of Oregon State, and that is Joshua Gray. But to me, the standout trait for Joshua Gray was simply the fact that there is scheme versatility, in my opinion, as a run blocker, and I always value that, a guy that can work gap scheme and zone scheme specifically and be comfortable in those spots. And I think Joshua Gray is going to bring that upside that could get some teams excited. He's a 5-year starter that I think showcases that on the field. He's got good hand usage, one of my higher grades for him. The sustainability is also slightly above average as well. I think that he could end up playing guard, but he could also end up playing the center position, even though he's a little bit on the taller side, just because of the way that he's kind of built. But ultimately, he doesn't show as many issues to me in terms of play strength as certain other players do that are even heavier than he is. This is more of a positional blocker than he is a true people mover, right? A downhill people mover, though he's capable in those schemes because of the way that he can enter into contact. I think you see slightly above average athleticism as well. Each block quickness, you see the 2-footed quickness. Now, I think he'd be a little bit heavy in his feet. I also think off the ball, he needs to be a little bit faster into his stance, and that's going to translate, especially the closer towards the inside or closer to the ball that he does get, that needs to be a little bit quicker. I also don't think he plays with a short area twitch. Some of the recovery quickness isn't outstanding either. Play strength to me is also slightly above average as well. He can keep his pads down when he's working downhill. He can lock out his hips, unlock his hips early, create some force through his hips. Again, I don't think he's overly powerful in the upper body. Punches aren't very heavy at the point of attack, but I think it's still a plus part of his game. And then, of course, the ability to create an anchor. Now, I don't like when he ducks his head. That gives him some problems. And again, you can lose some power. It's flash kind of that strength to strained, and that shows up in his sustain blocks as well. Then also, I think he's got adequate body control. He needs to avoid consistently falling forward in pass protection for me. His feet are active. He has a recovery balance to his game. I think the well-rounded nature of Joshua Gray is what could intrigue some teams. A 5-year starter, plus hand usage, plus sustainability. And for me overall, there's enough to get up to the second level and have some scheme versatility as a run block. Length of just over 30, really 31.5-inch arms will definitely seemingly kick him towards the inside. He also doesn't play with big hands either. He's got smaller hands as well, but athletically he tested out well, and I think that's going to also translate for him at the next level. Moves us to number 9. At number 9, we have a little bit of a different body type here, just over 6'5", but 324 pounds we have him listed at, and that is Miles Frazier out of LSU. For me, this is clearly a power scheme fit. I also think he's going to fit more as a guard at the next level. I don't know how much flexibility you're going to get between center and guard. Maybe he could flip positions because we have seen him do that, which is huge. It's a big part of his game. He's played both left guard and right guard. Athletically testing, the measurements, I got vibes of Kevin Zeitler. That's just a feeling I got when watching him. Now, that extent, Zeitler was a former first-round pick. I don't think to that extent or that kind of consistency in his game, but just the play style in general, how he does win, does remind me of a Kevin Zeitler. And I think there's enough juice when he's working towards the second level. I have him slightly above average there, where you can have him kind of reach, cut off backside blocks by just being able to get out and run. Like, there's certain guys that maybe test better, but don't get out and run like he does in space. I think he can run a little bit. To me, I just think he's pretty well-rounded, and the big thing is here, his play strength, his anchor ability does show off a little bit. I think he's very good in that spot. Some issues of hand position can give him some problems, but to me, he's a guy that's going to win early on reps. He's going to shut down reps early. He's going to maintain that pocket depth. He's really going to kind of keep that horseshoe in play, and he also has that ability with stunts and games to work pretty well. He can be a little bit tall into his pass sets, and his re-anchor is probably the biggest concern that I do have as a play starts to work backwards, but ultimately, that's why he wins early. He wins with early positioning. He sets his angles really well into entry points. It allows him to create seal blocks. Again, going back to a power scheme, he can kind of down block, clear out run lanes because of that specifically. Got some accuracy early, but issues of closing tight angles angles as a puller. The sustain on the move can be a little bit of a problem as well. I think his sustainability is just average at this point. He could be late to get up to the second level, lose a little bit of length in pass pro sets as well as his entry timing is hit and miss, which again, he needs to win early as we've seen. But ultimately, that's what he does. He's going to win early, and when he does, he's going to shut down the rep. He's going to win near the line of scrimmage. And then as a run blocker, I think he fits because he really maximizes what he's capable of, and that's really clearing out run lanes, being a smart player, playing with control, which I think is slightly above average as well. Resets himself to kind of position for blocks and deal with games up front. He's active resetting his feet. I think that Miles Frazier is, again, a more limited ceiling, no doubt, from Florida State to LSU. Could find some success at the next level as a backup that gets some opportunities to step in and start. Move on to number 8, a player that I was really high on coming into this year. I ended up kind of with a lower grade than maybe what I would have expected. This is going to be a big year for him, and that's Jonah Savaiinaea. I'm probably saying his name wrong. I was last year too. I expect to be an offensive guard going from right tackle at the next level from Arizona, listed in at 6'4", again, 324 pounds here. To build for backup guard, I just would like to see more dog in his game. I didn't feel like I felt that enough when watching Jonah Savaiinaea, but the athleticism is going to get people excited. The length is going to get people excited. Just under 34-inch arms, massive hands, great size. And when you tie that with good athleticism, good reactive athleticism, he could absolutely go a lot higher than this. And I don't doubt that at all, that he could go pretty darn high for an interior offensive lineman because, again, scheme flexibility is clearly on display. Second level ability to me is very good. I think he's really strong in that category, which will translate. He's got a sudden change of direction. He's intelligent when working upfield. He can speed up, slow down. He can react and change entry, pacing out to the second level. His eyes are quickly to find guys. And again, he's really good in a lot of spots. I just didn't feel like the dog was there as much. I want to see that kind of come out more. Also, I didn't feel like his play strength really maybe matched his build. I think his posture was a little bit inconsistent in creating a firm posture. The core strength didn't always pop as much to me in terms of that core power in general, but his hand usage was a plus. There's some technical aspects that you like here. The control is a plus. He's a good athlete. He's got good size. Jonah Savaiinaea could definitely go a lot higher than where I ended up having him ranked, and I would expect that he would. I think he's got a path for potentially getting around 2, at least day 2 at worst. This is on to number 7, where we go to Georgia, who is just full of offensive linemen, and making the top 10 is going to be Tate Ratledge at 6'6", 300, basically just under 310 pounds. He's got fine length at 32.25-inch arms, just over 10-inch hands as well. I think that this is a pretty good athlete, and obviously you see some of that toughness that showcases when you watch him. He also has some of that anchor ability, which just show off. He's a little bit of a top-heavy build, which is just kind of the way that he's built out throughout his frame. Some good things here. He can really lock out his hips, create and be able to settle down, create a firm foundation at the point of attack. To me, he's capable of dropping his weight, which is huge when you're talking about being able to create anchor specifically. He's got quick feet that can take on contact, come to balance pretty quickly. He's got some explosiveness when you're working behind him as his own runner. You can get him on the front side of plays. You can kind of be explosive at the point of attack. For me, I just thought he was a little bit below average in some of the body control, which is always something I get concerned about. He ducks his head a little bit as a run blocker. His agility in traffic is nice, which is the big aspect here, but I think his base will fail to kind of stay low a little bit as the rep goes on. You'll also see, to me, his hand usage is just average at this point. Got a strong latch. He's got really good plus core strength as well. He's a powerful player. Lower body issues, which teams will have to make the consideration of when they draft him, but also has plus athleticism. Again, kind of like Jonah Savaiinaea. I think both of these are kind of fair putting next to each other because while I like Ratledge a little bit more, I feel like as a dog at the next level, I think I have some issues with this game, but I think there's still legitimate upside here. So body control is a little bit more of a problem for me, but I think there's real upside here as a plus athlete and also as a plus powerful player on the field that does display when you watch him. So for me, Tate Ratledge gets to nod. Move on to number 6, and at number 6, we're going to Purdue with a guy that could ultimately stay at tackle. We'll see how this plays from right tackle, but I think we're going to put him at guard at the next level, and that's going to be Mbow out of Purdue, listing it at 6'4", just over 300 pounds. I wish that was a little bit more. I wish he had a little more waves, a little more compact in his frame, because right now, for me, I think it's slightly below average in terms of the play strength that he brings, some of the anchor to his game. But again, very well-rounded player that I think does a lot of the positional things well. I think there's certain schemes that are going to fit him. He's obviously an athlete. He's going to fly around, has the range, could get sideline to sideline, could put him in a wide zone scheme, feel pretty comfy with it. So that's obviously noticeable. His reactive athleticism to me is one of the stronger that I've seen from an interior offensive lineman. I think that's easily going to translate. I think he's very good in that category. He's got easy swinging hips. You'll see that in his pass sets. Gives him real flexibility and range. Stays square when he's working down the line of scrimmage and still gather a lot of depth when working in those spots. Give up an edge a little bit when he's working his kick slide, but again, I think that's why you put him to guard, and that's probably going to improve for him specifically. His footwork, though, is smooth. He creates depth really smoothly. He's got a jump set that's athletic. That's going to translate to guard. So with athleticism is very noticeable. His control to me is just average right now. If that was a little bit higher, he'd probably be a little bit higher for me on my list. I think he does have some patience when working the edge. And again, this could get better at guard, but there's a little bit of a forward lean that that I don't always like. He will lunge a little bit if his hands don't cleanly connect for me. And again, the anchor that he brings to the table and the play strength to me is just slightly below average. I think at guard, again, that could be tested a little bit more, so you're going to wonder about that. That drop step anchor that he can really settle into and hold his ground could be a problem, but he's a high energy player. He's a finisher in that sense. I think he would always play incredibly wide within his base width, which could also lead to some issues as well, and you'd see that within the consistent footwork, keeping his feet on the ground, really being firm at the point of attack, but plus hand usage, plus second level ability, plus sustain. I think ultimately this is a player that Marcus Mbow could have some flexibility, real flexibility at the NFL, but if you put him in the right spot, I think he absolutely has future starting upside down the road for him. And a trade-off that you have to deal with, maybe of like, okay, well, does he bring the strength to the table? Maybe not incredibly well, but it's not a red flag for me. And it's also something that the athleticism really makes up for a lot of those concerns as well. I like the hand usage. I like the ability to get upfield, the movement skills that he has, some of the balance that he can play with. He can get a little bit over his feet when he's working towards the second level with some fluid redirect ability. Again, you put him in a scheme that lets him get rangy. I think that he's going to be a nice piece at the next level, and the right fit allows him to be a starter down the road. Marcus Mbow comes in at number 6. Let's go to number 5. Two guys that I have really right on each other's heels here, and I guess they're not on each other's heels. That doesn't make any sense, but one of them is on the other one's heels, and that's going to be Marcus Mbow, who's on the heels for me of Wyatt Milum out of West Virginia. Wyatt Milum was a fast riser for me. It actually started at the Senior Bowl. Didn't love him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he was one of the players that didn't perform that well. That was my first experience with him, so I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem. But then with just kind of diving into the film, I was like, actually, I do like him. So he was a good example of like first impressions don't mean everything, because certain guys on here, first impressions, like Jonah Savaiinaea, liked it a lot, not as high this year. And then the same thing for Wyatt Milum, kind of the opposite. First impression wasn't good at all, but I think the idea of moving him to guard is actually going to translate really well from 6'6", 313 pounds. The length will be a problem, but he's got pretty big hands. I think ultimately you plug him into guard and you're going to like what you get. You get a well-rounded player that's pretty much a plus in almost every category for me, right? As an athlete, and in terms of the anchor and the play strength that he brings, in terms of the body control that he plays with, I think his sustainability is kind of the calling card that I buy into right now as a player. The foot speed that you'll see that he can work through contact. He's light on his throws through contact. He's got an accurate entry. He's trying to reach blocks, seal off blocks, which opens up some scheme versatility as well, can work as his own mover. He's got some dancing footwork that will sustain and reset through blocks. For me, I think that's the calling card. His sustainability to me is good to very good right now. His hand usage to me is also a plus. He's got some real latch strength that's going to allow him to kind of latch on guys late, which also helps that sustainability as well. He's got the burst to close on guys in space. Then second level to me is slightly above average too. I think he's a plus in this category as well. He has that speed, especially from guard, where he can get upfield and work as a puller. Again, scheme flexion is a big part of the game here. He will lose a little bit of steam as he's working through traffic, right? Some of the agility there. Bouncing block to block to me is a little bit limited as well. He'll also kind of lunge over his toes, which gives him some problems. But the change of direction is balanced for me. The paths getting up to next level are really tight, which are nice. So to me, I think the flexibility here of scheme fit, but also position flexibility potentially, and just being well-rounded, but a plus in a lot of different categories, is why ultimately Wyatt Milum ends up as a top 5 interior offensive lineman for me, right? Top 6 interior offense, top 5 interior offensive lineman for me. I can count. He's number 5. Let's go on to number 4. And at number 4, man, we got a guy that I absolutely love in this year's draft, but I put him on this list knowing that I could absolutely say that, no, don't consider him this. Consider him a tackle, because that's what he's going to be at the next level, and that's fair. I believe that's very possible that a team drafts him as a tackle, which could ultimately push up his draft stock, but that's going to be Charles Grant, who is to me just one of the most fun offensive linemen to watch. It's not even close. He didn't play the best competition. You're watching this guy work against Hampton, okay, and then you see other schools a little bit bigger, and you don't see maybe the same turnout, but ultimately I think he dominates the competition that he plays, which is very important. 6'4", nearly 6'5", 310 pounds, fantastic length, just under 35 inches, massive hands, tested in pretty well as well. You just leave him at tackle and let him develop there and be like, this is going to be great, especially if you give him the right scheme. You let him, again, be rangy, let him work sideline to sideline, let him be an athlete, which is where he thrives. But if a team viewed at guard like, hey, he's got the play strength to do it, we can get him there. He clearly shows the flexibility, the sink, the bend in his game. We can get him there consistently wise. Maybe that allows him to hit the field faster. Put him at guard. I think that's really on the table. But I also could think a team viewing him as tackle could push him up the board a little bit higher. We'll see. But to me, it's the two categories of he's a very good athlete and he's got very good body control. You tie those two things together, that's not easy to find. And positionally, he's also sound as well. I know you would expect so much rawness here, but I don't think it's that raw. I don't think it's that far off. I think he's a really good player in this year's draft. draft. I think he's got a case to be round 2. I think he'll go on day 2 for sure. But for me, like, he's an athlete. You can see that, right? Obviously, he's rangy. He can work over blocks. He can reset on blocks. He can reach blocks. He also showcases then the flexibility. He can drop his weight. He can open up his hips. He can deal with speed around the edge. I would like to see as a puller him be a little bit faster in these spots. He can get out of his stance, but I think he needs to speed up the process a little bit, especially for guard. Things are happening faster. Short area. I would like to see that improve, which again is why you could view him as a tackle the next level, and I would have no problem with it because things are just going to happen a little bit faster. But he shows the agility to step through the offensive line. To me, the athleticism, the light mover on his toes, and then you throw in the control with that as well. Smart positioning, quickly gets his feet on the ground. Now, play strength to me is just average, but it's not at a category that's, again, nearly a red flag or something I don't think can translate to the NFL. Yes, I'd like to build on that a little bit more. He could be a little bit flimsy, but again, there's players that I have more problems with in that category for me. Plays with a nice posture and pass sets. That's pretty consistent. To me, he's plus in all the categories in terms of hand usage right now. I think it's already a plus. He quickly resets his hands for entry. He can make those late kind of latch adjustments, which allows him to stall out reps. That can really help him at the guard positions. His hands and feet connect together well for recovery and connection. And then again, he can sustain blocks, and that's a big part of it. There's some nastiness to his game that I like. Ultimately, I think this player is going to be comfortable at the second level. You may have some scheme flexibility questions, but ultimately, what he does well, he does really well, and he does a lot of things at a really nice level. So to me, Charles Grant comes in at number 4, one of my favorites, absolutely a day 2 pick, has a case for round number 2. And I don't think there's a very big gap. While there is a gap for me, it's not a huge gap between the next 3. Now, the next 3 I think are pretty universally known. These could move around, but at number 3, right now, really tight together. And again, there's not much of a gap between Grant and between who's at number 3, which is going to be for me, Zabel out of North Dakota State. I think that he's going to go to guard. And I think, first impression for him was immediate there for me. It was like, oh, this guy looks like a guard. I understand that his size might say, hey, tackle. But as soon as you start watching him, I felt guard. Really, I think my second impression, because my second impression would have been at the Senior Bowl, watching him just dominate the Senior Bowl, was I thought the best performer seeing it live for those 3 days. I thought he was outstanding in those 3 days. And I don't want that to allow me to overreact to the grade here, but if a team says that he's interior offensive lineman 1, I don't have a problem with that. Scheme flexibility is going to be a huge part of this. Offensive line flexibility is going to be a huge part of this because you can put him up and down the line. I think that he actually would probably be his best at center. That's kind of where I'm at with it right now. I like him as a center long term. I think it would fit. But if you said we view him as a guard, that would make sense. I think he's going to be an interior player, but you could put him at tackle. He's a great athlete. He's got the control. You'll see when he pops up off the ground, fast hands. He's got retreatability through contact. I just have some issues, right? Getting cross-faced a little bit. Things are going to happen faster at guard. I have more issues than I expected in those spots, but he really can create some leg drive. Again, competition is going to be a question, but he was so good at the Senior Bowl. I don't have as many questions there, but he's got the leg drive to kind of work zone schemes. He's got the body control to move around in space. He fires off the ball with a low pad level, and he really fires off the ball there. Smaller hands. I also think he needs to fight to kind of reset and drop his hands a little bit in terms of pass sets because he can be a little bit too high. He can allow inside lanes for rushers. To me, I just think on the inside, things are going to happen faster. I got him a touch lower than some of the others. But again, if you went guard 1, it wouldn't shock me at all. Teams could love him. There's scheme flexibility. He's a great athlete. He was awesome in the Senior Bowl, did everything well, tested out well. Zabel, to me, is pretty much the full package. He comes in at number 3. That moves me on to number 2, literally neck and neck. Like they are 0.01 spots below each other, 0.01 points below each other in terms of how I grade these guys as of now, literally right next to each other. I don't think there's that very big of a gap here. And again, position flexibility could be what helps number 2, which is Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State at 6'3.5", 320 pounds. I think he's got an awesome build for the spot. Obviously, last season, he held it down at left tackle when the injury to Josh Simmons happened, but then held it down at left guard before that. I thought he was better at guard before he went to left tackle, played great competition, showed up all year long. There's maybe less consistency statistically because he's sitting at tackle in the competition he's going against, but I even went back to 2023 to check out Donovan Jackson. I was still like, I don't even know which year I'm watching. I didn't even realize I was watching 2023 until I did, and I was like, man, this guy still looks good. Donovan Jackson, to me, is a heck of a player, has a case for round 1, and I think he has a case again for guard 1, some of the position flexibility, because I think he does everything pretty darn well, right? He's got some sustain at the second level, continues to work as his own blocker. I love his strain as a blocker, specifically to sustain blocks. He can lose some seal at times. Some of the footwork can be a little bit off, but he runs his feet through contact. He's got a toughness to his game. He can quickly drop his weight, which is great. He can play with a wide, low pad level. His anchor does thrive because of that. That pad level allows him to kind of settle down, create a legitimate anchor, play with a wide base, play with the knee bend, create a strong frame. He got a really strong foundation at the point of attack. His hand usage, to me, things things I like here. He's got a braced entry at the point of attack. He's really well built throughout the upper body. Now, he can miss some of those two-handed punches, but the length is a plus as well. Body control, he keeps his head back, keeps a really nice posture. Sometimes he'll let guys kind of out-leverage him. Again, his footwork can be a little bit hit and miss and sustain at times, but he is balanced in the top of his body. His weight doesn't overly shift, I think, too often. He stays under pads when he gets into his strikes. To me, Donovan Jackson is right up there with the top guard in this class, who ultimately, for me, is still Tyler Booker out of Alabama. You're going to trust him in pass protection. You put him out there, immediately your pass protection is going to get better. For most teams, they're going to be pretty comfortable with, like, hey, day one, pass protection is going to get better. And there's not a lot of guys that I think, you know that. I think you know that with Tyler Booker here. Obviously, leadership, all the things that we hear about him are fantastic, things that you want to buy into. Some people question the scheme versatility. I think his testing scores, while they're clearly not great, they're still similar to guys that we've seen be scheme versatile at the next level, so he can at least fit into that category. At 6'4.5", 320 pounds, he's got a fantastic build. Again, the leadership qualities connect. The arm length is fantastic for a guard, and you plug him in at guard, and I think you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a very good pass protector with very good body control, with plus ability still at the second level, that if you put him in what he does well, he's going to do it really well, and I think it's going to connect pretty darn fast at the NFL because he plays with tight hands on entry points, got focus to really drop his pads. Again, that body control shows up. He stays square. He utilizes his length well. There's a patience to his game. He's firm. Foundation at the point of attack. He's got some recovery ability. From average is reactive athleticism. I don't think it's fantastic, but I think there's enough here to get versatile with him. Maybe you don't want to run him on wide zone schemes all day long, but I think there's enough here for you to get versatile, especially if you use him as like a down blocker, especially if you use him to kind of cut off blocks at the second level, especially if it's a backside linebacker. I think he's capable of doing those things because he does have some quickness in his hips. He's got some timing to get off the ball, which is massive because that first step is going to translate. It's going to be huge at the next level. He's going to have to play into that for sure. Again, I have him average in this category. Got the feet to get out as a puller, and then he's got very good sustainability as well. He's got the hips to sustain blocks, work through contacts. Again, he could become a little bit, to me, as a waist bender at times when trying to sustain blocks, which is the biggest problem. Pulling speed isn't fantastic, so you probably want to stay a little bit more within the box than getting super wide in some of those spots as well. But ultimately, I think that he's pretty well-rounded, but what he does well, he does really well, and I think that day one, he's going to be a nice player in the NFL. So Tyler Booker wraps us up at number one by a razor-thin margin. Okay, so that's our top 10. Now, a couple of guys that just missed the cut. My next five were like this. Number 11, I had Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. He really grew on me, right? I think there's some real limitations within his build. I think he needs to get stronger. His body control is a legitimate issue. He is constantly getting knocked off. The top of the weight shifts way too often, but his ability to recover, the great hand usage, which I think is going to translate. Like, the hand usage is something I could buy in. I buy in attack technicians on the interior. I think the hand usage is a really big part of that for him specifically. And then to me, he's also a tough player, man. He's pretty smart as well. He's got active eyes. So he comes in next from Georgia. Then I have Seth McLaughlin, who I think could legitimately be a backup guard at the next level. I don't know about starter, maybe in a pinch, but I think you're going to be pretty comfortable with him as your backup center. Maybe some flexibility, but probably just settling in as a backup center. Then I go Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State. Limitations in terms of, again, range. Guys get on his edge. Can he recover? But I like Jackson Slater. He wins early. He shuts down reps early. I think there's some scheme flexibility towards his game as well. He was good against his competition. Jared Wilson out of Georgia, who's only a one-year starter. You got a two-year starter in Fairchild. You got a one-year starter with Jared Wilson. There's a lot of things I like. Plays with a consistent wide base. I thought zero technique gave him problems. We saw that against Texas specifically, but ultimately, like, in his role, he did pretty well. He may kind of settle in at center. I think he could ultimately play guard. I think there's a chance that he could do that because he is rangy enough, because he plays gap to gap well. He utilizes his length really well. He does a really good job in those spots. You could see it in his ability to redirect. You can see his ability to open up. You can see him picking up stunts. Now, he could be just a little bit slow to react in those spots. I think things are happening really fast at center. He needs to play a little bit faster, but ultimately, typically he does. He gets out the ball pretty well, especially if there aren't guys set up on him. He gets the snaps out consistently. I think that he could move the guard, though. I think there's actually flexibility there for Jared Wilson at the next level. I like him. I just don't love him right now, but he's smart. He's an aware player. He feels things around him. And then number 5 would be Jalen Rivers out of Miami, who's played both guard and tackle. We've seen him do it mid-game. And Rivers is fun to watch, and his ability to step in at guard and kind of be a very consistent player throughout the season stood out. So he would wrap up my next 5. And then beyond that, that's where I get to guys like Caleb Rogers, who I think could bring tackle guard flexibility to the next level. I just think he's a below average athlete, but when he does well, he does pretty well. He's played a ton of snaps, a ton of experience. I think he has real position flexibility. The length is not great for tackle. Just don't think he stands out in a lot of categories. Below average athlete, but he's a plus player. He brings his strength to the table. You're going to get that. I then have Cornelius next up behind him out of Oregon. I don't love the like almost will look like an intentional trip against Ohio State, but that man's tough. He's a rugged offensive lineman. could be at tackle, but I think that's going to give him more problems than anything. Probably push him to guard. He just plays too tall, just too much of a waist bender. He's going to struggle to get under blocks, but he's tough as heck, and he did some really good things against Ohio State specifically. You saw some real punching power in the upper body. You saw some ability to get to the second level. I think he can connect with guys. I just think that there's going to be some real tapping limitations to his game. Then I go to Tyler Cooper, who I like as an athlete out of Minnesota, and that wraps it with Jonah Monheim, and then also Luke Kandra out of Cincinnati. So those are my top 10 and the guys that just missed a cut. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.